The member for Melton.
Thanks, Acting Speaker. And I rise today to also contribute to this vital piece of legislation, the Summary Offences Amendment Nazi Symbol Prohibition Bill 2022. And firstly, I should say I think it's a bit of a shame and it's disappointing that we even have to introduce this bill and debate it in this House. But of course we do that off the back of actions of some people in our communities, and obviously a minority of people in our community have taken some serious actions using this particular symbol. And before I start, I'd like to note and acknowledge a number of my colleagues' contributions, both here today and yesterday, and the moving contributions from the member for Box Hill and the member for Burwood, and of course the member for Oakley, and again the two personal accounts from the member for Bentley, and in particular the member for Northcote's personal account of her family's situation. So they're really acknowledged, and of course again this morning or today the member for Yan Yoon's quite emotional contribution, and I really appreciate that from the member. And of course the member for Altona helped us understand that the trauma of these horrors are not some notes in a history book. The trauma of what occurred during the 1930s and 40s are still a lived experience for many of our communities that lived through those horrors, but also their families that share it in that generational trauma. There are people alive now that we can talk to and that can share their first-hand experiences, and of course they can be further traumatised by some of the actions that have gone on throughout our community, by some of those that seek to terrorise and by the actions of using these symbols. It's only right that we have this legislation today before this House, and it is only right that this House stands in solidarity to these protections for our community. And I acknowledge the opposition's contributions on this bill, and it's pleasing to see that we do have a united front on it. The evil that occurred in the 1930s and 40s took innocent people and destroyed their dignity, and it certainly destroyed their lives. It corrupted the very fabric of society, and it not only stole the lives and culture of the Jewish community, but other religions, ethnic groups and the LGBTIQ community. Nazism also did a severe injustice to Hindu and Buddhist and Jain communities by appropriating their symbols and fouling their religious symbols for their own sick objectives. And the biggest Hindu community centre in Australia is on the doorstep of my electorate. It serves many of my constituents, along with many other members like the member for Tarneet, who also made an excellent contribution on this legislation earlier. And many of my constituents have been worried that this crime against their religious expression would be further prolonged. The Hindu community, with the Buddhists and the Jains, stand shoulder to shoulder with the Jewish community against Nazi ideology and the fear used through Hakenkreuz. The Nazis chose a symbol excavated by a German archaeologist that was similar to the swastika in his campaign of hate, and the Hakenkreuz is the most widely recognised symbol historically associated with Nazi ideology and is the most common symbol used in recent high-profile displays throughout Victoria. And a ban of the public display of this symbol is therefore a sensible starting point. Many of my multicultural community have been worried that this warranted legislation to ban this hate symbol would inversely impact their religious practice of their holy symbols. And the religious swastika has its etymology from Sanskrit, meaning conducive to well-being or good being. So when you walk through the new housing developments of Melton and other growth areas of Melbourne, you see new families moving into their newly built houses, blessed through their religious ceremony, a holy symbol of swastika, bringing goodness and well-being to their homes, and they themselves bringing blessings to the community that they are moving into and creating. And these good families are the polar opposite of what Hakenkreuz stands for. It is important for these communities to know that this legislation helps this community to reclaim their cultural identity in the midst of those who wish to appropriate their symbols for hate. So the Hindu, Buddhist and Jain communities stand together with other people of goodwill and support communities like the Jewish communities that have received harm from the ideology of Nazism and other hate. So the Summary Offences Amendment Bill, Nazi Symbol Prohibition Bill 2022, introduces a new summary offence to prohibit the intentional public display of a Nazi symbol specifically the Hakenkreuz. The Hakenkreuz is a symbol of hate and causes significant harm to Victorians, particularly the Jewish community. This landmark reform sends a clear message that the public display of the Nazi symbol has no place in Victoria. And the bill will acquit the government's commitment to ban the display of Nazi symbols, as recommended by the Legal and Social Issues Committee's inquiry into anti-vilification protections. The bill will create an offence in the Summary Offences Act 1966, which prohibits a person from intentionally displaying a Nazi symbol in a public place if the person knows, or reasonably ought to know, that the Nazi symbol is a symbol associated with Nazi ideology. We're proud to deliver this bill, which will make Victoria the first Australian state or territory to ban the public display of the Nazi symbol. And the bill fulfils the Victorian Government commitment to implement Recommendation 24 of the 2021 report of the Legal and Social Issues Committee's inquiry into anti-vilification protections in Victoria to ban the public display of this Nazi symbol. It also forms part of the government's broader commitment to introduce a suite of reforms to strengthen anti-vilification protections in Victoria. And I'd like to thank the member for St Albans, who's in the chamber, who's in the chamber, for her work on the committee, for chairing the committee, as well as all the committee members' contributions and providing a great outcome. And of course, my thanks also go to the Attorney-General and the Minister for Multicultural Affairs for their and their staff's hard work on this legislation. Of course, we saw scenes in the Grampians in regional Victoria of young idiots trying to intimidate and revive hatred needs to be addressed. And the re-emergence of fascism, especially during the pandemic, was really concerning. And we simply cannot allow the lessons learned to disappear with the new rise of fascist ideology. Of course, our government is committed to protecting the rights of all Victorians to be free from racism, vilification and hatred, and to ensure everyone feel welcome and accepted. And we know that the harm caused by hate conduct and vilification can be profound, and it can affect the physical and psychological well-being of individuals, and often prevent them from feeling comfortable participating in their community. And of course, as I said before, we've seen a number of events throughout the state in regard to the displaying of the Nazi symbols, and some of those have been referred to in previous contributions, so I don't think I'll go to those now. And again, corflutes being destroyed and I suppose damaged with Nazi symbols and things like that, which is just totally inappropriate. Of course, in the opening statement in regard to this bill, it was designed with the leaders from the Jewish, Hindu and Buddhist and Jain communities to ensure it appropriately reflected their views. And of course, we recognise that the swastika is an ancient and an auspicious symbol of purity, love, peace and good fortune. And we heard from faith groups about its widespread use, including on places of worship, clothing, art, architecture and in shop fronts. And this swastika is to be distinguished from the appropriated and distorted version of the symbol, also known as the Hakenkreuz. Noting that the swastika was also appropriated by the Nazis. The Hakenkreuz became a symbol of the Third Reich, under which heinous crimes were perpetrated against humanity, and we've all recounted that through some of the contributions, of course. And of course, some of the people that have been in the gallery with their personal accounts through members here that have contributed. And of course, we all know what the Nazis did, back in the 30s and 40s, and the Holocaust and the trauma that has caused many people in our community and their families. So, Acting Speaker, look, it's pleasing that this House is united on this bill. It's important legislation. It's making the rightful move of banning this hate symbol, and it's making it clear that this type of hate has no place in Victoria. I commend this bill to the House and I wish it a smooth passage.